दृष्टो येनात्मविक्षेपः निरोधं कुरुते त्वसौ उदारस्तु न विक्षिप्तः साध्याभावात् करोति किम्. If the space wants to get distracted, it can't get distracted physically because there is nothing other than space. This is the principle of freedom from distraction. Distraction is not possible in the truth, nor distraction is possible in the case of a person who understands the truth. In the knowledge of the truth, there is no distraction. Why there is no distraction? Because the sea water cannot get distracted to any wave, because wave also is water. The space also cannot get distracted to the air because it's not parallel to it. Space is in and through the air. Space is in and through the fire. Space is in and through the water. Space is in and through the earth. So if the space alone is, there is only space, where can you get distracted? If there is something else, if there is something else also parallel to it, then it can get distracted. Oh, there is something else. But whatever is made of space, physically speaking. It's made of space. The space is present in and through every object in it. An object inside space is not parallel to space. An object in space is not parallel to space. An object in space is made of space, is nothing but space. Therefore, for space, distraction is not possible. Similarly, for the conscious being, distraction is not possible. Understand the principle. Because consciousness cannot get distracted to an object, because an object also is made of consciousness. The subject cannot be distracted to the object, because when the subject understands that the object is not parallel to the subject, it is made of the subject. When the object is made of the subject, then the object ceases to be an object of distraction. This is how a wise man becomes free from, a Brahmajnani becomes free from distractions, because all that he thought objects of distraction are made of him, made of the being. Things are made of the being, therefore the being has no distraction. Things are made of consciousness, therefore consciousness has no distraction. And that undistractable, unlimited, non-dual, conscious being, silent being, is one's nature. Therefore, distraction has to be handled by understanding that there is nothing to be distracted to. What if you control distraction, not understand it? What is controlled can be again flare up. You can always lose control over something over which you had control before. Till now you had control, now suddenly you can lose control. Control is not the answer. Understanding is the answer. Controlling maybe give you a relief, but it's not the answer. But we being earthly human beings, great, great, unparalleled weaklings. Unenviable weaklings. We depend also on reliefs. Control is necessary, is necessary, and ultimately the long-term answer also is necessary. Understanding is the eternal answer, and self-control is the temporary relief. And we do need both temporary relief and eternal, permanent solution. But if a person looks upon the relief as the answer, then it is a misconception. As long as you don't take the relief as the answer, relief is wonderful. Food is wonderful as long as you think that food itself is going to give you fulfillment. As long as you don't think. If there is no misconception that food is everything, then food is all right. It helps me survive. Shelter helps me to survive. Money helps me to survive. But they are not the answer. But they help. They are useful. They are useful, but not the answer. Bapre, what a sentence, Swamiji. Yes, there are a lot of things in life which are all useful. And what is useful need not be the answer. The answer is something different from what is useful. All that is useful for living. Food is useful for living. And shelter is useful for living. And money is useful for living. Clothes are useful for living. There are so many things, including your toothbrush, is useful for living. That's not the thing. But don't mistake what is useful to be the answer. The answer is yourself. Understanding oneself is the answer. If understanding oneself is the answer, the physical things are all useful. And we need both useful things as well as the answer. That makes life comprehensive. I can't renounce the useful things and go for the answer because I can't survive. I need useful things for survival. I need material things for survival. I need Vedanta for the answer. I need to look at myself for the answer. Drishtoyena atma vikshepaha, a person who feels distracted to this object and that object. Nirodham kurute tvasau, let him have self-control to begin with. And if he has self-control, in time he is available for getting the answer also. Udarastu, but a wise man who understands there is nothing else, is showing the contrast between controlling from the object and understanding that the object is non-parallel. Udarastu, whereas a wise man, na vikshipta, there is nothing to be distracted to. Sadhya abhavat, because there is no need for any self-control. Therefore, karotikim, what can a wise man do? A wise man is not busy controlling himself. A wise man understands there is nothing to be controlled from. As wave, it needs to control its mind from other waves. It thinks of other waves. This wave is a bad wave. That wave is a richer wave. I don't like it. That is a Ravana wave. When one wave thinks of other waves, it feels some mental kleshas, emotions. It becomes very impulsive. Certain waves it likes, certain waves it doesn't like. Therefore, it whips up impulses in itself when it thinks of other waves. But as water, it can't think of anything, it alone is. As water, it can't think of a wave because all waves are nothing but water. As water, wave is not parallel to water. Wave is water, and therefore a wise man understands everything to be non-separate from his being. Therefore, there is no possibility of a distraction in the case of a wise person. But in the case of an ignorant person, there is distraction. And let him control. If the ignorant person has distraction, let him control. And ultimately, let him also understand the non-dual. But in the case of a wise man, there is no parallel, and therefore there is no distraction. Is this verse clear, please? Dhiro loka viparyastah vartamanopi lokavat na samadhim na vikshepam na lepam swasya pashyati. Dhiraha, a wise man. A wise person means, please don't think he has got horns. The one who thinks correctly is a wise man. And everybody has the capacity to think correctly. If I can think correctly about an object, I can think correctly about myself also, based upon my experiences. As pointed out by the Shruti. Right thinking makes him a wise. Wisdom is not something different from right thinking, please. It's a big problem. Wisdom is not something different, higher than right thinking. Wisdom is not greater than right understanding. Because all that is available in human life is only wrong understanding and right understanding. But the language throws up something. He's a wise man. What is wise man? The right thinking person. If a husband looks after his wife well, children well, looks after his employees well, we say he's a wise man. He's not a wise man. Wise man, yes, he is a wise man. It means what? He's a right thinking person. And everybody can be a right thinking person. Any human being. A husband can be a right thinking person. A housewife can be a right thinking person. Don't think, please, to be a right thinking person you have to be born into a great family of scholars and wise men, etc. You don't need the background of scholars behind you. You don't have to be born into the family of the wise in order to be wise. In order to be wise, you don't have to be born into the family of the wise, even though that may be an advantage. In order to be a scholar, you don't have to be born into the family of scholars. Any ordinary person can become a scholar and right-thinking person. Shankaracharya's mother was not a sannyasini. His father was not a sannyasi, but he was You don't have to be born into the family of sannyasis in order to be a sannyasi. Get out of this complex. Even a beggar on the street can be a wise man. Even a Raikva was a carpenter, he was a wise man. A right-thinking person. A person who used to think about his existence as per his experiences. Just as I can think correctly about dharma, I can think correctly about the disciplines, I can think correctly about the self-control, I can think correctly about the values. Similarly, I can think correctly about my existence. Like a scientist thinks correctly about the laws. He explores and thinks correctly about the laws. And if I can think correctly about one detail of the creation, I can think correctly about my own existence. If I can think correctly about the creation, I can think correctly about the source. Therefore, correct thinking is within everybody's reach. That means wisdom is within everybody's reach. Swamiji, I am a housewife. Is it possible? Yes. In fact, a housewife has a greater opportunity because you can just relax, do a little work and then relax. And go to the kitchen and eat something whenever you feel hungry. Yes. What is this house? This word housewife has attracted some moss around it. Housewife is a very big job because to manage, it's not a housewife, house manager. Yes. What is it called? Executive manager. House executive manager. It's not an ordinary thing to manage his house, gee. Especially for a housewife to manage her husband, Rama. You have to be. He may manage 1,000 employees in the factory, but to manage him is much more difficult. Therefore, don't think to be a housewife is a small thing, please. In fact, any relationship ko nibhana is a great thing. You have to be a right-thinking person to nibhavo any relationship. And the most difficult relationship is wife, husband, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. These are very tough relationships. Mother-daughter is not a very tough relationship. That's a very luxury. Because mother has no dislikes for the daughter, daughter has no dislikes for the mother. That's a luxury. It is swimming with the current. And daughter-in-law, mother-in-law relationship is swimming against the current. Even wife and husband relationship is swimming against the current. It's very difficult, and therefore, if you have the capacity to nibhavo a relationship, then you have the capacity to become a Brahmajnani. Yes. That is the clue. Therefore, spiritual wisdom is not something extraordinary. Right thinking person. It is right to be truthful. It is right to be honest. It is right to have self-control. It is right to avoid all the narcotics. It is right to avoid all the alcohols. It is right to be nice to others. It is right to be truthful to others. It is right to be helpful to others. It is right to be responsible. And it is right to be non-violent. And in the same manner, it is right to think that one's existence is there in all the three states. It is right to think that a state comes and goes, but the one who experiences the coming and going of a state doesn't come and go. It is right to think. In this manner, you can think rightly about your existence. That is spiritual wisdom. Therefore, there is no wisdom greater than right. Once you use the word wisdom, you get perplexed as to what is this wisdom. But if I use the phrase right thinking, then there is no problem. Therefore, wisdom is not different from right thinking. I don't want to say it is right understanding or anything. It's right thinking. Right thinking is right understanding. Right thinking. Correctly thinking. Okay, ji. Dhiraha, a wise man, loka viparyastaha. A right thinking person always looks something different from others. Loka viparyastaha. Not only does he look different from others, he even looks real opposed to others. Viparyasta. Ulta. A wise man looks so different. A right thinking person looks so different from others. A right thinking person sometimes even looks contrary to others. Loka viparyastaha. Vartamanopi logvat. Even though as an individual he looks like others. He eats like others, he drinks like others, he wakes up like others, he sleeps like others. He lives, his lifestyle is like others, but his thinking is. Thus there is a difference between his thinking and his life. Because lifestyle is the same. You wake up and then you work hard to make to the roti. That is the lifestyle. Thoda kaam karo, thoda kamao, thoda pakao, thoda khao, thoda aram karo. This is all the lifestyle. You may belong to any nation, sir. But ultimately the fundamental lifestyle is wake up, get ready, get going, make little, earn some, eke out your bread, come back, cook, eat and go to bed. This is the fundamental lifestyle. Kaam karo, kamao, khao, pivo, so jao. This is the fundamental lifestyle. If a person is a doctor, that is a lifestyle. He gets up, gets ready and goes to office and treats patients, makes little money and comes back. And then whatever money he earns, his wife takes away. And then in return, she gives him some bread and butter. But action, achievement, enjoyment and rest. Karma, phala, bhoga and vishranti. Only these four things. Karma, perform action. After performing action, achieve the result, enjoy the result, and then rest. Ahara, nidra, maithunam. Enjoy, rest. This is the life. So when it comes to this fundamental lifestyle, I have explained to you fundamental lifestyle. One may have fast life, or slow life, or American lifestyle, Indian lifestyle, cultured lifestyle, or non-cultured lifestyle, any Eskimo lifestyle, modern lifestyle, tribal lifestyle. All lifestyles boil down to this fundamental lifestyle. Get up in the morning, get ready, and go do little work, make little money and come back and cook and eat and go to sleep, bas, and get in the morning. This is Ishwar ka banaya hua lifestyle. This lifestyle you can't change. This lifestyle you can't change. This fundamental lifestyle is the same for both the right thinking person as well as wrong thinking. For the ignorant, for the ajnani as well as a jnani. Even a brahmajnani, a wise man's lifestyle is the same as the social lifestyle. He also gets up and then he may do some work, he may earn his bread, or he may go to kshetra or whatever it is. I don't want to give only a sannyasi as an example for a wise man. Any ordinary man can be an example for a wise man. Even a carpenter can be a wise carpenter. A dhobi can be a wise dhobi. A housewife can be a wise, a right-thinking housewife. Therefore, the lifestyle is the same for both jnani and ajnani. And yet his thinking is so different from others. So the contrast is only between his outlook and others' outlook. His understanding has a contrast with others' understanding. His understanding is different from others' understanding. His thinking is different from others' thinking, but the lifestyle is the same. Swamiji, they don't come to Vedanta. I say coming to the class is not a lifestyle. It's not a fundamental lifestyle. It is a given interest. Fundamental lifestyle. The style that you follow in order to live, that is called lifestyle. The style that you follow, what you do, is you wake up and get ready and get going and eke out some bread and come back and cook and eat, and by the time you are tired, Americans do the same thing, Indians also do the same thing, villagers also do the same thing. Understand, the lifestyle is the same. Wherever you go, you have to live this way. If you are coming to Vedanta class, it is your given interest. It's not a part of your lifestyle. It's not a part of your lifestyle. It's okay, it's nice. It is your interest. A jnani and ajnani share the same lifestyle. But a jnani thinks so different from an ajnani. Na samadhim. In the second line, a jnani says he doesn't feel the need for composing himself. Samadhi. It is only when you are disturbed you feel the need to compose yourself. But a jnani doesn't feel the need to compose himself. Na samadhim, na vikshepam. Nor does he feel any distraction. Nor does he feel the need to compose himself. Na lepam, nor does he feel tainted by anything. Swasya pashyati. And therefore, because in non-dual nature, there being nothing else, no distraction is possible, no composure is necessary, and no tainting is possible. This is a peculiar thing, Ji. Understanding the non-dual nature of the self is different from making some mental antics, mental gimmicks to be quiet. To become quiet within is different from understanding that one's nature is choicelessly quietude. To become quiet is an effort. If the wave makes an effort to become water, that is an effort. It doesn't have to become water, it has to discover that it is already water. It is already water. Similarly, an individual doesn't have to become peaceful, he has to understand that he is by nature peace. A mountain doesn't have to become still. It has to understand that I am still. The space doesn't have to expand. It doesn't have to expand. The space has to understand that I am already expansive. Thus, an ajnani is all the time receptive to his own mandates and the world's mandates. Whereas a jnani understands there is no need for any mandate. Where distraction is impossible, where there is no need to compose, where impurity is impossible, where the need for purifying oneself is not necessary, that is the truth. And that truth happens to be every living being. Every living being happens to be that truth. Every living being may not have the intelligence to understand, but every living being happens to be the truth. Every man may not have the capacity to know the truth, or he may not have the time to know the truth, he may not have the intention to know the truth, he may not have the interest to know the truth, but everyone is the truth. Every wave may not be interested in knowing itself, but every wave is the water. Understand the difference between wanting to know the truth. That may differ from person to person. Some may be interested, some may not be interested, but everybody is the truth. Everybody is the truth. Therefore, where disturbance is impossible, where the need to compose is not there, where impurity is impossible, where the need for purification is not there, that is the nature of the self, the truth. Your existence happens to be the truth. One's form is non-eternal, but one's existence is eternal. But Swamiji, this is the big problem. One's existence, you are discerning, differentiating between one's existence and one's form. Yes, sir. It is your existence that experiences the waking state, dream state, and sleep state. Your form doesn't experience. Inside the dream, this form is not, the waking form is not there for it to experience the dream. The waking form is not there in the deep sleep state to experience the deep sleep state. Therefore, the form doesn't experience. It is the conscious being that experiences. And therefore, there is a difference between your existence and your form. That is what is Vedanta. The way what Vedanta says is right, but we have to verify it, we have to listen to it. We have to see it in our own experience. Because it talks about the waking, dream and sleep. I can't debate about it. It says that you are a conscious being, not the form. It's obvious. And it also says everything falls within the realm of the conscious. It's obvious. Therefore, conscious identity is unlimited identity. On reflection, that is also obvious. And conscious identity is non-dual identity. On reflection, that is also obvious. Thus, what Vedanta says to me about myself seems to be obvious, but I have to see that it is obvious. Something may be obvious, but I may not think so, but I have to look at it closely to register the obvious as the obvious. Did you hear this sentence? Yes, please hear. You have to closely look at the obvious to register that it is obvious. This verse also is over, Ji. Next verse. Bhava bhava vihino yaha tripto nirvasano buddha naiva kinchit kritam tena loka drishtya vikurvata. Bhava abhava vihinaha yaha. The one who doesn't think in terms of the presence of the things or the absence of the things. The one who understands all that is present is his own being. It is not the things that are present, but generally before the exposure to Vedanta, man always thinks in terms of either the presence of life or the absence of life, the death. I think of my life, and while living my life, I am all constantly also thinking about death. I am thinking of my money that I have and also keep thinking, supposing I lose it. I also think of its absence. We keep thinking the presence of things as well as the absence of things parallelly. I think of my children being present, and I also think, my God, tomorrow they may not be there. I think of the prospect of their absence. I think of my house and think of the prospect of the absence. When you think of the prospect of the absence, then there is a sense of insecurity. Therefore, to think of the presence and absence of things is very universally commonplace. It's not something unusual. It's not strange. To think of both the presence of things and the absence of things is universally commonplace. Bhava abhava vihinahaya. The one who doesn't think in terms of the presence and absence of things. Triptaha. And a person who is peaceful within himself. This word triptaha, I don't want to translate it in the sense of he is satisfied. So he is peaceful. He is serene. Triptaha. Nirvasanaha. And he is free from the desires for pleasures. Pleasure also is a phase in life. There is a phase in life when you want desires, when you want pleasures, etc. But as you become matured, you grow out of the desire. You grow out of the pleasures. You grow out of the desires for the pleasures and you become a student of the truth. Nirvasana means free from vasanas, means free from desires for the objects. Buddha, a wise man. A right-thinking person doesn't think in terms of the presence and absence of objects. A right-thinking person is peaceful within himself. A right-thinking person does not promote desires in himself. Desire fulfilled is a musibat, unfulfilled is a musibat. How, Swamiji, fulfilled is a musibat? Because you want to fulfill it again. Once you taste blood, you want to taste it again. Once you fulfill the desire, you want to see the same thing again. Once you travel abroad and then you have enjoyed it, then you want to do it again. Not that really it fulfills you. Even after 1,000 travels, you still have one more travel in your mind. I want to do it again. Desire can never be fulfilled, Ji. Desire is always repeated. Like the desire for food, does it ever get fulfilled? Is desire for eating fulfilled forever? I mean, after Bhandara, after 4 hours again you feel sleepy? Feel hungry? You have lunch at 1 o'clock and at 4 o'clock again you feel hungry? You have dinner at 9 o'clock and again in the morning you feel hungry? Just as the desire for food is never fulfilled forever, similarly, desire for anything for that matter in this world is never fulfilled forever. Understand this. This is exactly the principle. A desire by nature cannot be fulfilled. A desire by nature cannot be fulfilled. You are a womanizer, and even if you have 1,000 times, even if you marry 1,000 girls, your desire for flesh is not fulfilled. Even if you have a lot of money, but your desire for money is not fulfilled. And the best example is Nirav Modi. I don't look upon him as an intelligent man. He is an unwise man. Because exchanging your country for so little money is nothing. You have chosen the money rather than the country. He is a stupid man. He is a stupid man. A wise man, a right-thinking person is different. He sacrifices everything for the nation and he enjoys being in the nation rather than going all over the world. Anyway, Ji, no desire can be fulfilled for good. And Bhagavan Krishna says, Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhenamiha Vairinam. It is like fire. The more you offer to the fire, the more it wants. The more deshi ghee you offer to the fire, the more it puts out more it burns. More it burns means more it wants. The more you feed yourself, the more you want. The more you want, the more you want again. Desire keeps aggravating. Therefore, a right-thinking person does not bank on fulfilling any desire for happiness. Therefore, is nirvasanaha buddha, is free from desires. Naiva kinchit kritam tena. Nothing is done by him, by a jnani. Naiva kritam, naiva kinchit kritam tena, lokadrishtva vikurvata. Even though he does many things in this world, but he does nothing. Like in the dream, even though you wander all over the dream, but in actuality you don't. There is no movement. There is no movement. A jnani does his duties, everything, and yet he is inwardly relaxed, and therefore he doesn't do anything. There is no strain. He does everything and yet he does nothing. He flies in the dream, but actually he doesn't fly. He looks to fly. He looks to walk in the dream. He looks to sit down. He looks to stand up. He looks to walk. He looks to talk. He looks to do this and do that. But he does Nothing. He is only seeing, he is only being. And therefore, an ajnani lives the lifestyle of an ajnani, but he doesn't think the way an ajnani thinks. Thus, the difference between ajnani and ajnani is not the lifestyle. The difference between ajnani and ajnani is the quality of thinking. It is not an ordinary quality of thinking. Very basic difference in their thinking. An ajnani thinks I am the form. A jnani thinks that I am not the form. An ajnani thinks that I am the form. A jnani understands that I am not the form. Next verse G. Pravrittavva nivrittavva naiva dhirasya durgraha yada yat kartum ayati tat kritva tishtata sukham. Pravrittavva nivrittavva, in doing or not doing anything. In doing an action or not doing an action. Naiva dhirasya durgraha, duragraha. He doesn't take a stand. I must do this, I must not do this. He doesn't look upon what is to be done and what is not to be done as mandates. He doesn't look upon them as some vidhis and nishedas. There is no duragraha. Duragraha means, I must. It's my principle. Like say people say, it's my principle to get up at 4 o'clock. This is called a kind of agraha. It is my principle to go to bed at 8 o'clock. What is it called? Agraha. Agraha means a firm stand. Agraha, firm stand. But a jnani doesn't have any firm stands. In doing things he doesn't have a stand, in not doing things also he doesn't have a stand. He doesn't have any agraha, duragraha. In fact, any agraha is duragraha. Yada yat kartum ayati, whenever there is need to do something, he does it. Yada yat kartum ayati, jab jo karna hai, wo kar lete hai, bas. As things manifest for him to do it, he does it. Not as a matter of principle. Human beings always guide themselves by certain agraha stands. Like, I must worship God 5 times. It is agraha. Roz mere ko mandir jana is a kind of as a principle. Going to the temple need not be agraha, but the agraha takes place in the mind. I must go. I say you should be free to go. You should be free also not to go. You should be free to get up early in the morning. You should be free not to get up also. Need not be as a stand, need not be as a principle. A jnani doesn't have a firm stand in favor of doing or against doing. Yada yat kartum ayati tat kritva, having done that, tishtataha sukham, he remains peaceful. He doesn't gloat on his principles. He doesn't derive satisfaction from what he has done and from what he has avoided, like an ajnani. Having done some dana, you derive some satisfaction from it. Having fed a hungry man, you derive some satisfaction from it. But a jnani doesn't derive any satisfaction. A jnani doesn't derive any satisfaction from what he has done or from what he has not done. He just does it. He does it, and doing an action is not parallel to his existence. Karma is not parallel to his existence. Exactly like the wave is not parallel to water. Doing is not parallel to his existence, or not doing also is not parallel to his existence. If it is not parallel to existence, it is only being. Doing also is being. I don't mind saying that. Even doing is being. If you give this teaching to the lay people, will they take it? Doing is being. But that's Vedanta, please. कम से कम समझने वाले समझना चाहिए. What Vedanta is conveying is, even your doings are being. Even sounds are silence. Why? Because sounds are rooted in silence. They are made of silence. And therefore, a layman derives satisfaction from his actions. He goes to duty, he does his duty well and comes back home and feels satisfied. Chalo, I have done my duty. He derives satisfaction from his right actions. He derives satisfaction from avoiding wrong things. He looks to derive satisfaction, whereas a jnani doesn't look for deriving satisfaction. He is embodiment of serenity. Like you don't try to derive consciousness from any object, because you are by nature conscious. Like the space doesn't try to derive some extension through air and water and fire, etc. The space is boundless. You can't add anything to the space, please. You can't add 1 inch to the infinite. You can't add 1 inch to the physical space, the unlimited. And therefore, a jnani doesn't try to derive satisfaction. In the case of a jnani's life, doing and being are one and the same. Because doing is being, it is possible to say he does and yet he doesn't do. Oh, that means he doesn't do. No, even doing is being, not doing also is being. That means there is nothing other than being. इसको आप लोग समझना चाहिए. The presence of the wave is presence of water. The absence of the wave also is presence of water. The presence of the world is the presence of the seer. The absence of the world also is the presence of the seer. Our existence doesn't have an alternative. It cannot be replaced by its own absence. The wave can be replaced by its own absence, as it were. This body can be replaced by its own absence. It's gone. Meaning all objects are non-eternal. But our existence cannot be replaced by its absence. If it is replaced by its absence, to register that absence, our existence has to be there. Therefore, existence cannot be replaced. ये सारी बातों को समझना चाहिए. Therefore, a jnani, he does, but it is non-separate from being. Just as in the case of an ajnani, even when he tries to be, he is only doing. He is only making an effort to be. Even when you tell him, be quiet. You tell an ajnani, an ignorant person, be quiet. He struggles to be quiet. Therefore, even in being there is struggle. Whereas in the case of a jnani, even in action there is no struggle. Even in action there is no struggle. Whereas in the case of a jnani, even in being quiet there is a struggle. You ask him, a person, be quiet for a little while. Hey Bhagavan. In fact, the most difficult thing is to be quiet. If you can make it to be quiet, if you can be quiet, then you have no problem. If you can be quiet. If you can be quiet, say for a few minutes, then you can stretch it. You can be quiet with yourself. Then whenever you are free, you can be quiet. When you are quiet, you are not restless. When you are not restless, you can save money. Because it's only when you are restless, then you go to Khan market, And you spend money. Therefore, a peaceful person can save money. Am I not true? A restless man has to spend money. A restful man doesn't have to spend money. And therefore, for an ajnani, even to be quiet is a struggle. But for a jnani, even to be active is peace. Because to do and to be are one and the same. Thus, there is a big difference between knowing and not knowing. Next verse, ji. Nirvasano niralambaham Swachando mukta bandhanaha Kshipta sanskara vatena Cheshtate sushkaparnavat. There is a dry leaf and it just snaps from the tree branch and it falls down. In which direction it goes? जिस दिशा से हवा चल रहा है उस दिशा में चलती है बस. It is just guided by the breeze. Similarly, human life also is guided by its prarabdha. Prarabdha is like the breeze. And Bhashyakara says, prarabdham pushyati vapuhu. Swami Chinmayanandaji Maharaj used to say, prarabdham pushyati vapuhu. Prarabdham pushes. It is the prarabdham that guides your physical existence. If you are destined to live for 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, you may make whatever effort, please. Self-effort should be continued. But despite the self-effort, जो प्रारब्ध में है, वही होगा. The theory of prarabdha, the law of karma, does not change the need for self-effort. Because self-effort gives you comfort. Self-effort gives you comfort in the present. Self-effort does not really, if it is there in your prarabdha to pop off at the age of 60, even if you are a healthy person, something can happen. And there are so many people, villagers who are very poor and they live 90 years, 100 years. I have seen people. Prarabdha hota hai ji. Therefore, man's prarabdha is like, man's embodiment is like a dry leaf. How the breeze guides the direction of the dry leaf, so does prarabdha guide the movement of the physical life. Sanskara vatem, that sanskara should be mean, not sanskara but prarabdha. By the breeze of the prarabdham, the life moves. Kshiptaha, dropping from the tree. Cheshtate sushka parnavat. Kshiptaha, an individual, even if he just leaves himself like that, Kshiptaha should be taken as a jiva, the individual embodiment. Sanskara vatena, by the wind of the prarabdha, cheshtate, it moves. Like what? Sushka parnavat, like even a dry leaf. And what is this jnani? Nirvasana, is free from desires. Because right thinking implies understanding that no desire can be fulfilled. That is one of the right thinking. If you capture this as a part of right thinking, then the rest of the thinking will be right. No desire can be fulfilled forever. You have one house and you want to have one more house. You want to have one more house. Supposing you want to have the basics, the desire for food cannot be considered as a desire, even though that is also a desire. That also cannot be fulfilled. The need for basics is different, is a need. But the desire cannot be fulfilled. Mental desires. Therefore, understanding that the desire cannot be fulfilled is a part of right thinking. Niralambaha, a jnani is one who doesn't bank on any detail of the creation. He doesn't bank on anything. See, we have to bank on objects for survival. But a jnani does not bank on any object for his fullness. There is a difference between banking on objects for survival and banking on objects for peace. Objects can sustain my body, but objects cannot give me peace. Cannot give me fullness, tranquility. They can't give me tranquility. They can't give me peace. They can't give me happiness. They can't give me serenity. They can't give me fullness. Let me use the term fullness as a synonym of all these things. Objects are choiceless for survival, but the objects cannot give me fullness. So if I bank on the objects for survival, I am not being stupid. No. I am perfectly all right. If I bank on money for survival, I am not being stupid. If I bank on food for survival, I am not being stupid. There are so many ways of not being stupid. Yes. But if I bank on any of the details of the creation for my fullness, for my tranquility, I am being stupid. ये बात को भी समझना चाहिए. That is called niralambha. A jnani does not bank on anything for his fullness. Swachandaha is a man with freedom. Swachandaha means he is free and his freedom is synonymous with his being. His freedom is not in the form of a thought. Like silence is not in the form of another sound. Swachandaha is a free person. Mukta bandhanaha, and he is free from bondage. And such a person, his life is guided by his prarabdham. Because he has used all his time and will to understand the truth. When you use your will and time and energies to know the truth, the rest of your life is guided by the prarabdha. I would like to say one more thing. Not only your prarabdha guides your life, in fact, God's grace also guides you. When you use your energies, your resources, your time, your will to know the truth, then the truth itself will guide you. That is what Bhagavan says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. What is that verse? Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Janaha Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yoga Kshemam Vahamyam. Bhagavan's great promise, ji. Those who spend time for the truth, I will look after them. You are using your will for the truth, you will be looked after by divinity. To me, it is logical, ji, because when you are doing the right thing, the truth itself will guide you, will protect you. When you live for the truth, truth will guide you. When you live for dharma, dharma will guide you. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Similarly, atma rakshati rakshitaha. Why not? Rakshitaha means understood. And such a person is guided by prarabdha. Call it guided by prarabdha or say guided by God's grace. If you use your mind for the truth will protect you, will guide you. Clear, ji? We will continue later. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.